Because of this treaty, the Japanese government cannot say no to the US demand for bases based on its own policy judgment. こんにちは。This is Tax Channel. Today I'm going to react to a video of Why doesn't Japan hate the US? It is generally said that Japanese has a good impression of the United States, but it is not necessarily only a good thing. There are aspects of Japan that are subordinate to the US. So I, as a Japanese, would like to give my reaction. So let's get started.
In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atom bombs on Japan, killing hundreds of thousands of Japanese citizens and ending World War II. But despite this devastating attack, less than a century later, Japan and the United States have become close political and social allies. In 2011, 85% of Japanese people polled viewed the US favorably.
In general, Japanese people love America. Japanese people talk about the US far more often than they talk about other countries. In addition to the historical background of Japan and the US, once confirming each other in war and now being allies, we have been greatly influenced by this country in politics and economics during the period of rapid economic growth. In addition, Japanese people have been greatly influenced by their lifestyle and pop culture of United States. Americans have always been an object of admiration for Japanese. In fact, Disneyland is treated as if it were a scared place.
So why doesn't Japan hate the US? One of the big reasons is that at the time of the war, Japan was ruled by Emperor Showa. His policies plunged the country into financial crisis and increased military power. During the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II, he authorized war crimes and ordered Japanese civilians to commit suicide instead of being captured. This made him a feared and unlikable figure in Japanese history.
This video describes the Showa emperor as being hated because he ruled and strengthened the Japanese military, but this is not correct. The Japanese constitution at the time effectively forbade the emperor from exercising political power. In fact, the Showa emperor is said to have started the war at the behest of the military without making any statement prior to the Japan-US war. In addition, MacArthur of the United States did not execute the emperor for the war crimes. He didn't want to execute Showa emperor for the war crimes because he knew that there would be a backlash against the US if he executed Emperor Showa, who was supported by most of Japanese people at the time. Therefore, it is not that the Showa emperor was hated by the Japanese people.
The end of the war also had a silver lining. Neither Japan nor the US stood any chance of invading each other, meaning that the protracted sea battle was going to continue indefinitely. On top of that, the USSR had also just joined the war against Japan. With the war over, Japan's communist neighbors threatened their existence. But from 1945 to Japan's independence in 1952, the United States occupied and rebuilt the country with a heavy emphasis on growth and stability. They promoted New Deal policies to help the economy, pushed for labor rights and unions, and dismantled existing monopolies and overhauled the education system. They also freely shared technologies, pushing Japan into eventually becoming a manufacturing giant, and introduced democracy and a new constitution, letting the Japanese people hold elections for the first time. Essentially, American involvement in post-war Japan, along with their significant financial support, launched the country into one of the biggest economic recoveries in recent history. Today, Japan has the 5th largest economy and is the 5th largest exporter in the world. The US is Japan's strongest economic partner, and as a result of their intervention, the US has enjoyed consuming Japan's exports, particularly cars and electronics. Additionally, the two countries share a mutual security assistance pact, which essentially says that both countries will militarily defend each other from any foreign attacks. These efforts, in addition to lessened tensions as subsequent generations have shifted their priorities, has led to a close and complementary relationship.
This is not an equal relationship between Japan and America. The reality is that Japan has never, not once after the war, opposed a war conducted by the US. This is because of Japan-US Security Treaty. Because of this treaty, the Japanese government cannot say no to the US demand for bases based on its own policy judgment. So what will happen if this treaty is in place? The US can demand to use any place in Japan as a base. Japanese cannot refuse that request without a rational reason. So what are the negative effects of this treaty on Japan? One of the biggest problems is the Northern Territories issues with Russia. Because of the treaty with the US, Japan can place a US military base on the returned island. This, of course, will not be approved by Russia. Therefore, unless this is a fundamental change in the current military relationship between Japan and the US, there is no possibility of resolving the territory issues with Russia. No. As you can see, the Japanese love the US, but their relationship with the US is not an equal one. This is a country that can only believe what it is told by the US. However, the Japanese really love the US. Does this fit Japanese national character of not expressing their opinions much? This is the explanation today. I hope you enjoy other video about Japan. Lastly, please don't forget to subscribe my channel and like me. いつもありがとうございます。バイバイ。